Man, it is crazy. Today, the PlayStation 2 is 15 years old. 15 years old. Can you believe that? Can you seriously just like, sit back and believe that? 15 years old. Man, I got so many memories from the PlayStation 2. I got so many OG nostalgic memories. Man, let's go ahead and take a quick trip down memory lane. What was your first ever game on the PS2? My first game on the PlayStation 2, and I will never forget this, was Dragon Ball Z Budokai. That was the very first game I have ever even had on my PS2. And I thought it was crazy, and what made it crazier was the fact that, this was like my first ever, like back then, those graphics were the shit. Like graphics just did not get any better than that at that time. And man, oh man, it was good. Then Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2 came out. Yeah, that was real good too. Had all kinds of fusions in it, all types of fusions, there's a whole bunch of stuff in that game. I didn't really care for the story mode. I didn't like it at all really, but it wasn't really heavy on story. But then Dragon Ball Z Budokai 3 came out. See, this was back in an era when games actually took time and took patience, and they actually were really good. Well, not all of them. I mean, there were some bad Dragon Ball Z games back. Well, no, there was only one bad Dragon Ball Z game back then. But we're not about to talk about the bad things. We're here to talk about the good stuff. We're here to reminisce on the PS2. And one of the other games I got was actually Kingdom Hearts. And back then, man, if you guys have never played Kingdom Hearts, I encourage you to go to your local GameStop. Alright, pause this video. As a matter of fact, add it to your watch later. Go to GameStop. If you don't have a PS3 already, buy a PS3. Buy the Kingdom Hearts 1.5 HD remix and buy the 2.5 HD remix and play those. Those were the games that I grew up with, and when I say they were so good with narrative, with cutscene, everything, they were to the I promise you, they just don't make games like that anymore. They were so good back in the day, and that was also back when Metal Gear Solid, Metal Gear was always good, but this is when Metal Gear was actually starting to show more, I guess, in the gaming community, because the only two games actually on PS2 that came out for Metal Gear, the only two Metal Gear games that came out for PS2, I should say, were Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3. Those were good games. Amazing. The PS2, it was like such a legendary console. I mean, yeah, there was the Xbox, but I mean, nobody really gave a fuck about the Xbox, honestly. I mean, I really didn't care. I had one and I didn't really care for it. The only reason I played my Xbox back then was for Halo, and I was back when I liked Halo, and I was like 8 years old back then, 8 or 9, one of the two. Or I was probably younger than that, but yeah, man, it's such a nostalgic console. And then I remember the first day I got Naruto Ultimate Ninja. I borrowed it from a friend, man. So this is what happened. Back then, I had a friend. I can actually still remember his name, but I'm not gonna say his name because I don't like really saying names in my videos sometimes. But whatever. So he let me borrow. No, scratch that. No, my first ever Naruto game was Naruto Uzumaki Chronicles for the PS2, and I beat that like so many times. Then I met a guy. I had a friend, and and he also had a Naruto game, and he had Ultimate Ninja. Back then, Ultimate Ninja was like the ish, man. It was the why am I saying ish? It was the shit. It was the shit back then. And back then, that's when those kind of games were still relatively expensive. So, I was like, hey man, go ahead and let me borrow that Ultimate Ninja. I'll let you borrow my Uzumaki Chronicles. And he's like, all right. I borrowed it for like a week. I played the living hell out of it. Like, when I say I played the hell out of it, I mean I played the living hell out of it. It was crazy. It was crazy. I mean, it was so fun. The jutsus, all the animation. It was like almost like a comic book. And like I said, back then, those kind of games were, they were just pinpoint. They were just good. That was as good as those games were getting at that time. And back then, whenever there was like, you see new YouTube videos on a game, you knew that it was coming out. You knew it was going to be good. I remember getting Ultimate Ninja 2 on the very first day it came out. Ultimate Ninja 2, and then after that I got Ultimate Ninja 3. Back then I was really big into anime games. I really wasn't playing much Metal Gear Solid. I wasn't really into first person shooters. I wasn't into any of that, honestly. Back then I was just playing a lot of anime, a lot of other games. I played a game called Blinks, but that was for the Xbox. But I was playing a bunch of different games at the time. Star Wars Battlefront, the OG, like the real OG PS2 games. And nowadays, those really, I wish that a lot of them would get, HD remakes, because man, they make a lot of money. They would make a lot of money remaking a lot of these games. But yeah, honestly, back then that was the era of like, I was in that phase of Dragon Ball Z, Naruto. There was a couple other games I can't think. Resident Evil 4 back then. When Resident Evil 4 first came out, I think it first came out for the GameCube, and then the PS2, then the Wii, and then everything else. That game was a hit back then. I remember because it came out the same time Metal Gear Solid: The Twin Snakes came out, and it was around the same time, I believe. And it was a solid game. It was really solid. I remember playing that game and just blown away at all the stuff I can do. It felt almost like a free roam kind of game, like an open world. It kind of was in a sense. And I mean, oh man, the memories. And if you think about it, 15 years, like so much has happened in 15 years, and it's just like, wow, 15 years. Shit is crazy, yo. I was like 5 years old. Man. 15 years, that's crazy. That is ridiculous. And I mean, I still do believe back then the PS2 was the best console. It's one of the best consoles. Honestly, it's one of the best consoles. I don't care what anybody says. You can have your Xbox Ones and all that, but I'm just saying, the PS2 is definitely in my top 5 favorite consoles of all time. It's just so many memories. But let me know in the comments below what your favorite console is. And let me know, what PS2 games you had, or what PS2 games you played, or if you just didn't have a PS2, what were you playing at that time? I'll catch you. Well, thank you for watching this video. I always got to thank you guys, because you guys are awesome for supporting me. And I'll catch you guys later. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a wonderful day. Peace.